Hello everyone and welcome back to MixBuzz TV mixing and mastering tutorials on YouTube. I'm your host David and this is the second follow-up video to our analyzing Adele's vocals. Many of you asked me to make a video covering how to spot and treat common problems on vocals like resonances, plosives, etc. And I made a first follow-up video, a podcast, covering pretty much all the common problems we can find when mixing vocals, the ones I could think about at least, that would apply to many situations. I'll link that podcast video here and in the info box down below. But since the subject is so deep and hard to cover, I wanted to split the theory, so to speak, from the practical examples, and in this video I'll show you just that. But before we start, I want to introduce you to a cool site called ratethemix.com. Link in the info box down below, a community where you can enter mixing competitions, get feedback on your work from other mixers and professionals, and last but not least, you can win stuff in the process. For example, this month, April 2016, there's a prize bundle worth $1,500, which ain't bad. The competition starts on April 10th, 2016. Entries must be submitted by April 20th. If you're interested, you'll find all the details on the site. I'll put the link in the info box down below. So with ratethemix.com, you get to practice mixing. Every month you get access to a new song to mix, all from different artists and genres, and you can win stuff by entering the mixing contest, so check it out. But let's get to our video. How did I treat both a female melodic vocal and a rap male vocal for this mix, which is a song that's already released, so you can go listen to the final product. Link here and in the info box down below. The song is called Promises That You Made, produced by Dobro Michael for the independent label Dobro Music. The singers are Sherilyn Vilazes and Max Gust. I hope I'm not butchering your names here, guys. It's a pop track that I mixed and mastered. It came out great, and I thought it would make a great example because it has both female and male vocals. The genre is pretty popular, and I think the problem I had to solve on these vocals are common for many of you guys, and it would make a good example to see how I dealt with them. So let's have a listen to the track, the final version, and then we'll start digging into the processing. But before doing that, I have to explain one thing, otherwise the mix page won't make any sense to you when you see it. I had to print both female and male vocals specifically for this tutorial because I had some hardware as inserts on the female and the male vocal. I had my beloved drummer MX50 de-esser, hardware de-esser on the female vocal, then a couple of plugins, then a distressor, again as an insert. So we're gonna hear the raw vocals, then the vocals with the hardware de-esser printed, then the final version with the plugins and the de-esser printed. On the rap vocals, I had my API 2500, so I printed that and then processed it with the plugins that we are gonna analyze. And then I had also the drummer 1978 on the drums, printed that as well, and the only thing is missing is the X filter from Elysia on the 2 bus, but you have the link to the final version so you can listen to it. But as usual, the mix and some things here and there will not sound exactly the same. It's gonna be okay for this video. I also filmed the units in action, so you can see how much I was removing with the de-esser and how much gain reduction I was doing with the distressor and the API 2500. So I hope you're gonna find that interesting as well. Let's listen to the track.
Every night I looked up to the stars, remembering what we had together. Though I believe in the promises that you made for me, 'cause you said you would stay with me until forever. There was time when I looked into your eyes, I breathed in and felt your heartbeat beating. Tonight just smiled, 'cause I knew love was beyond infinite. But how can you walk away and leave me so breathless?
Feel for you every day, wonder why you didn't stay. When you leave, my sky's turn gray, your touch is crazy. You're the girl I dream of, you're the
We had the female pop vocals, very talented artist, very spacey in the mix, and this very wide rap vocals. Let's take a look at the processing. As you can see here, I have these blue tracks, which are my printed tracks, the one we were talking about earlier. We had the version with just the de-esser and then the plugins, and then the final print version with the distressor on and the last plugin that is automated. Then we have, well, the drums with the compressor on, the 1978 drummer, and the rap vocals printed with the API 2500. Let's take a look at the raw vocals. Let's mute all these and let's just look at the raw female vocal, which is this one, the pink one. Now, as you will see, there are many automation. And speaking of treating vocals, what we said in the podcast video is not all the problems are static. Most of them are dynamic. Let's start by listening to it raw.
In the promises that you made for me, 'cause you said you would stay with me until forever.
We notice right away a little bit of problems with the high end, some resonance in the low mid area. But most important for me, the first thing that I wanted to do was to take care of the S's and the excessive high end. So the first processing is my SSL channel. You see there's a cut at 70 and a cut at around 16K. This limit the bandwidth, just that.
In the promises that you made for me, 'cause you said you would stay with me until forever.
So from here, not night and day difference, just basic cuts. From here, we go immediately to the de-esser print. Now the same vocal with the hardware de-esser.
If we could just believe that we belong in each other's arms. If we could just believe that we belong in each other's arms.
So the first thing, the most important thing for me was to take care of the S's. So after the de-esser, the first problem that I found was some resonance around, let's say, 250, pretty common area. And this was a problem that was going on for the whole track. But at the beginning, when she sings in the low register, the problem was lower, was around 180. And so I used the dynamic EQ and I had to automate both the frequency range and the threshold. And you see here at the beginning is 180 and here is the threshold. But when the music starts and she sings to a slightly higher range, I had to shift and to automate the dynamic EQ to go to 250 and lowering the threshold. Let's hear it.
What we had together, though I believe.
Let's hear this pass without it.
Though I believe, though I believe.
It cleans up that 180 range. And then the automation.
Though I believe in the promises that you made for me.
That kicks in here and there in some spots. I should search for them to find them, but believe me, it does. So this was the first problem. The low range in the first part and the rest of the song needed two different dynamic EQ settings to take care of the resonance in the low mid range. Then we have the EQ, the main EQ. This takes care of the static problems due to room and microphones. And let's hear it with and without again.
'Cause I knew love was beyond the infinite. But how can you walk away and leave me so breathless?
Without.
'Cause I knew love was beyond the infinite. But how can you walk away and leave me so breathless?
So let's copy this on the B and let's try to listen to each and every one of these cuts. As you can see, they are all cuts. They're all subtractive EQ to remove resonances. So it's a good example. Let's start with the first one at 220.
Tonight just smiled, 'cause I knew.
And this is the first one. See how it rings when she sings in the low range?
Tonight just smiled, 'cause I knew love.
Okay, so this was the first one. Let's hear the second.
Tonight just smiled, 'cause I knew love was beyond infinite. But
Remember in the other video when I talked about frequency by time, this cut here, which is at 260, it stays the whole time she sings in this low range. It's just there all the time, no matter what notes she hits. And this could be due to the room or the microphones, we don't know.
tonight just smiled, 'cause I knew love was beyond.
So both these are static problems. Static EQ will solve them. Let's hear the third one.
Tonight just smiled, 'cause I knew love was beyond infinite.
This one is around 1K, and this is probably again due to flutter echoes in the room, or it could be the microphone
Tonight just smiled,
has this
'cause
nasal
I knew
sound.
love was beyond infinite. But how can you walk away?
And then we have the other two in the high range, probably just harshness problems. Let's hear this one around
Tonight
8K.
just smiled, 'cause I knew love was beyond infinite. But how can you walk away and leave me so?
Okay, so it's piercing at times, but the cut is very, very conservative. It's not even 1 dB. This is 3 dB and 0.7, 3 dB 0.4, and 2 dB 0.6, the one we saw previously. And then the last one, which is a very narrow notch at 13K. And this is, remember when I said excessive high end? This is most likely due to the microphone. It just has a nasty piercing frequency in the 13K area.
Tonight just smiled,
Hear it?
'cause I knew love was beyond infinite. But how can you walk away and leave me so?
After this, the printed track with the distressor.
If we could just believe that we belong in each other's arms.
And this is without the distressor.
If we could just believe that we belong.
So it's just dynamics, just color from the compressor. You can see the settings, you can see how much gain reduction I was doing. After the distressor, I just needed the last piece of EQ. You can see it's just to brighten up a little bit the vocals. And the corner frequency is 13K, so the same range we did that nasty, very narrow cut here, 7 dB almost. I'm giving some air back by boosting 1 dB 0.2 at 13K with a wider Q. So if you saw the other video, the podcast video, you will remember when I say shift the energy, don't just cut or boost. So we had this narrow cut here with the corner frequency at 13K, and here we have the same corner frequency, pretty much 13K, but the boost is very gentle and the Q is wider. This vocals also goes to my parallel compression, which is somewhere here.
Life complete.
Let's see if we can solo that.
Believe in the promises that you made for me. 'Cause you said you.
This is pretty straightforward, just a parallel compression for the vocal. Let's hear with and without it. Without the parallel compression.
Life complete. Way back when I was laying into your arms, desiring That time of risk constantly.
It just adds a little bit of thickness to the vocals. That's it. It's, again, pretty straightforward. Then the female vocals with all the processing goes to my lead female output bus. Lastly, we have the Pro and B. And as you know, I love the multiband compression on vocals. It takes care of pretty much all we talked about so far. So all the non-static problems, all the dynamic problems that vocals have very often, this is the final touch. As you can see here, if I go 3 dB scale, I'm not compressing that much. Corner frequencies are 250. We know at this point that her vocals has some build-up in this range. Then we have 3K and 8K.
I was laying into your arms, desiring that time of risk constantly.
As you can see, for the most part on verses, these two bands are working, the 250 and the 8K, so more S's and the build up in the low mid area. This is the most simple way to deal with these kind of problems. And notice I'm compressing 1 dB, and probably the 3K range is where she goes higher. Let's try to find it.
I know that life was never easy.
So is that specific vowel when she's saying that the 3K range, it becomes a little too much.
If we could just believe that we
That's it.
belong in each other's arms. I know.
Without it.
If we could just believe that we belong in each other's arms. I know that life was never easy.
Okay, obviously it makes more sense in the context of the mix, but yeah, you get the idea. Vocals are complicated. Problems pop up here and there, and multiband compression or dynamic EQ is one processing that I really, really love and I really find useful for treating vocals. Okay, so I wanted to squeeze both female and male vocals in one video, but it's getting a bit too long. So let's close this one here and we'll upload a second video with the processing for the rap vocals and some final thoughts. So this is it for this one. I'll link the second part here and in the info box down below. Also, if you haven't already, check out the podcast video linked in the info box as well, where we talk more about the theory behind vocal processing and the common problems that we find in mixing. It's not only a prequel, we can say, to these practical examples, but also a more in-depth discussion about vocal processing and mixing. And before I go, let me remind you that we have a donate button on both the channel page here on YouTube and on Facebook. So if these tutorials have helped you in any way and you feel generous, feel free to use it. If you like this video, please click the like button and leave a comment down below. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Support MixBuzz TV by sharing the videos and linking the channel on social media, forums, groups, and blogs. Subscribe if you haven't already, and see you next time.